All right, so we've got our basic login form built. Why don't we wire up the login button and actually write some code that will make it work? To do that, I'm going to need a script, and I'm going to need some sort of script host or controller object. We usually make these as game controllers, but I think game controller sometimes is a bad name for that because it isn't always what it does. So I'm going to start by creating an empty game object over here, going to do the exact thing that we usually do. It's actually right here, create empty. And we're going to make that a script host or a game controller if you prefer. Now, this one showed up pretty much in the wrong place. I'm just going to drag it and drop it down here at the bottom. And now it's outside the hierarchy, or at least outside of the UI. And again, we usually call this game controller. But I'm experimenting with some new names that I think I like better. So I'm going to call this script host. Because really that's all it's doing, is it's just holding some scripts. So there's our script host, and now let's come over here and we need some sort of UI controller for this. So let's click add component, new script, and let's call this login controller. Login controller, there we go. Create an add, and I'll double click this to open it up in my IDE. And after a minute or so of churning, you'll wind up with something that looks very familiar, I hope. So we actually don't need any of this stuff in here. I don't think we're going to need it at all. But I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to work above it for now. All right, so we need a function that will handle our login click. So let's start by making a public function, and I'll call it btn login click, which is pretty much exactly what it would be if you had done this in a Visual Studio project, i.e. not a Unity project. It just keeps all of my worlds synchronized if I do it that way. Now you could call this whatever you like, but I think that's a good descriptive name. Now we know that we're going to be dealing with UI stuff, so let's add our UI library at the top using Unity Engine.ui. Oh, wrong one got hit. Engine. There we go. Let's come back down to our login click event. And as usual, we're just going to wire it up and get things running. So let's just start with a quick debug message to let us know everything's working. So we'll start with debug.log. And that is as good a starting point as any. So that's good. We'll save it. We'll switch back over to Unity. And now we just need to wire up the button. So let's go over to script host. We've got our login controller script there, and that's great. Let's click on our button and let's wire this up. So we have the on-click event already set for us. That comes standard with buttons. So let's click the plus sign here, and we need to select the object. So the easiest thing to do, in my humble opinion, is to click script host and just drag it and drop it into that slot. So I'll do that, and there it is. And now I can select the function that I want to invoke when it's clicked, which is of course going to be login controller and then btn login click. And that should do it. So I should be able to run this, and I should be able to click, and I should see in my console window, let me find my console, here it is. I should be able to see in my console window, you click the login button. Perfect. Okay, next we need to actually do something a little more interesting than that. And before we do anything else, we need to remember that we're actually going to be dealing with a data type here. So if we go back and remember what this looks like, it's going to be email address, password, first name, last name, registration number. And we mentioned that we're going to be using this JSON format coming out of the API, but that once C# gets a hold of it, it essentially just becomes a regular C# object. If you prefer, the industry term for this is a POCO, P-O-C-O, which stands for plain old C# object. I know there should be an S in there, but POXO doesn't really roll off the tongue as easily. Yeah, I guess it does. But people call them POCOs. Okay, switching back over, we just need to add a new class. Notice I didn't say script necessarily. It will be a script, but let's do it down here. We don't want to attach it to anything. I'm going to right click, select create, select C# script. And this is going to be a little different than most of the ones that you've seen me do in the past. We're going to call this one registration. No controller, just registration. Because this is going to be a data-only script. So I'm going to double-click this. And as promised earlier, remember, you've got... Oh, no, this is a different message. Sometimes it says the line endings were different, and I was thinking that's what this was. I'm going to click reload all, though I frankly don't know what I would have changed. I guess Unity compiled it, and that's fine. Okay, so this is going to be a little different than what we normally do. So we're going to get rid of the stuff that's in here, and we're going to get rid of the stuff that's up here, because we're not going to use any of that Unity stuff in this particular class. And let's remove mono behavior because we're not inheriting in this case. This is just going to be a plain old C# class. And now we're going to start by just putting in the normal C# getter setter class thing. So it looks like this: public string first name get set. We learned about this like the very first week in class for the beginners. Hopefully this is the advanced class and you know this stuff already. All right, so there's public string first name. We're going to do pretty much the same thing with the last name. And then the other three fields were email, password, and registration number. Voila. Very simple C# class. Now, there's one thing that we need to do to this, because we are going to be using JSON, and what we're talking about when we're talking about JSON is actually a different topic called serialization. If you remember back to the intro class, we talked about serialization at length. We had a whole demonstration on how to save and load data to and from the user's hard drive. And essentially, serialization is that process. Serialization just means taking an object and making it somehow portable. You can save it to disk as a file. You can send it across the wire as an internet transmission. Either way, you're sort of making it portable. And I've heard it referred also to as something like dehydration, where you like take the Kool-Aid and then you dehydrate it and then you send it somewhere and then you rehydrate it. That's not a bad analogy. So if you were freeze drying something, you would freeze dry some food and then, or dehydrating it. And then when you got wherever you were going, you could rehydrate it and then you would have, I don't know, ramen noodles again. That sounds great. All right, so let's make this serializable. In order to make something serializable, we do actually need to import system up here. And to make something serializable, all we have to do is, upon adding the system directive at the top, we just need to add a decorator here that says serializable, and we're good to go. That's pretty much it. This is really handy for a lot of different things in Unity. Making something serializable also makes an object visible in the inspector. So if you want to make something that is not a standard type, for example, strings, floats, things like that on your object. If you want to have an object that's composed of other objects, if you make them serializable, they will show up in the inspector. We're going to have another lesson on that later on when you learn how to make inventory systems and things of that nature. All right, so we're done with this. Let's save it. And I really want that to be green. All right, so there it goes. And now that we've got our data class, we can actually do something with login controller. Now I happen to have mine right here. If yours isn't right there and you can't find it over here, then you can always go back to Unity and double click it. There's login controller right there. I could double click that and it would come back over, and then we would be in the right place. All right, so now we've got our login click and we've got this debug log thing. Let's just get rid of that because it's not really that useful. And generally the first thing that you want to do when you're dealing with a circumstance like this is you want to go ahead and disable the actual button that was clicked, so the user doesn't click it several times when they're impatiently waiting for their login results to come back from the internet. So to do that, we're going to need a reference to the button that was clicked. Now we could probably get that off of the button click event, but frankly, the times that I've done it before, it seems like it's a lot more work than it should be, and I would much rather just do something simple because I like doing simple things. And so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say public button, login button, and I'm just going to fix the reference like we usually do. Oops, it's button, login button. There we go. All right. And while we're at it, we might as well put the other two things in there because we know we're going to need them. Text, login text box, and public text, login password. Sounds good to me. All right, so those are public. Let's switch back over to Unity and go ahead and fill these in because you know me, I will forget and then I'll get angry when it doesn't work. So let's come back over here, select script host, and there's our three newly added elements, login text box, password, and button. Let's just drag those over. So there's the email one. Oh, it wants the text box, doesn't it? So give it just the text box. It doesn't care about the placeholder. The login button goes there, and password goes there. Now it would probably be smart in light of that to go ahead and change these to something that you can tell what they are. So we'll say password text, and we'll say email text. Otherwise, you run the risk of doing this wrong and you're unable to visually tell that you've dragged the wrong thing in there. So login text box is email text. Login password is password text. That's a little easier to spot mistakes. All right, so now we've got our references set. Let's switch back to Visual Studio and continue on our merry way. So we've got this. As mentioned, the first thing that we want to do is we want to disable that button. So let's select login button. And let's set its is interactable. I saw it there, is interactable to false. So we're essentially turning that off. And actually I'm wrong, it isn't is interactable. That's there, that's what you see in the UI, but that's a read-only property. So it's something that you can't change, but they have exposed interactable. There it is. Okay, so just a gotcha to watch out for. All right, so that will disable it. And you know, earlier I said we're not going to disable it, and here we are disabling it. So that's funny. If we want to go back and change the text so that it looks a little better for that, that's fine. That's just funny that I said that. I completely forgot about this use case. All right, and then the next thing that we're going to want to have to do is actually send something out to the internet and get the response back. Now this is going to take longer than 1/60th of a second, right? So how do we do this? Well, we're going to need a coroutine. So let's go ahead and make a coroutine to do all our heavy lifting, and then we'll actually invoke it from our button click. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of start and update, and I'm going to go ahead and make a coroutine called get login. Now, as you recall, all of your coroutines have to return a particular type, and that is IEnumerator. Make sure you get enumerator, not enumerable. Enumerator. And I called it getLogin, if I recall what I just said. And it's going to be read like that until you actually do all the stuff that you have to do for a coroutine, right? So we have to yield at some point. There's a few things that we have to do in order for it to be a coroutine. So it's okay if that stays red for a minute or two. All right, so let's get what they actually typed into the login text box, and I'll call that login. Oops, that's not login. There we go. I'll get it there eventually. Login text box dot text. And then we'll do the same thing with the password. And now we need to set a URL. This would probably be best as like a constant somewhere, or something in a configuration file. But for now, again, as usual, let's just get it working. So I'll create a variable called login URL, and that's where we need that URL from that site that we created. And so our login URL, I think we used it just a minute ago, but it should be whatever yours is /login, right? And then it wants there it is. It wants the email and the password. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm just going to grab that whole thing and go back to C#. I'm going to put it in a comment so that I can see what it looks like on the other side, and that's a nice little piece of documentation for me. So I can say my login URL is going to be, I believe, I'm going to have to go back and look at the base again really quickly. If I still have it, I don't. Let me go back and get it. Okay, now we're golden. That's what I needed. All right, so I'll set our URL equal to this. And then we're going to add two things onto the end of it, right? So the first thing we're going to add is our email, which in this case is stored in login. It might be better if I said email here, just to keep that straight. And then we need another /, and then we need the password. And we could do some checking here to make sure that they're not trying to scam our system. Again, that's probably outside the scope of our course, but you should usually sanitize your inputs here and on the other side. There's a nifty little attack that you can do against someone with a database called a SQL injection attack. And I think I talked about this in class. It's where you actually put SQL in the email or password somehow that actually blows away the database on the other side. It's kind of a nasty thing to do, but people are nasty. So sort of my general disclaimer here is that you always want to sanitize your inputs at this point. But we're not going to do that because we're good people. All right, so there's our URL. Now all we have to do is post it, and that's pretty easy. We're going to create a variable, which I will very cleverly call www, and I'll call Unity Web Request, which I may need to import. And I guess I do. Let's go back up to the top and add the using for it. So it's going to be using Unity engine dot networking. Perfect. Okay, Unity web request dot get, and then our login URL. There we go. So that's going to essentially run a get against that address on line 22. It's the exact same thing that we did earlier when we typed it in. Okay, so there's our www get login URL. Now for the coroutine magic, we need to wait for the response, which could take anywhere from a millisecond to 10 seconds, depending on however long it takes. So we'll say yield return, and we're waiting on www send. Whoops. Oh, totally hit the wrong key on that. Sorry. And then we're going to see if we get back an error. And for now, we're just going to throw that out to the log. All right. Sorry, I was seeing a little Rocky Horror there. Okay, if there's no error, then for now, let's just put what we got back. So we'll say debug.log. And whoops, we'll add www.downloadHandler. There it is. .text. And again, it should always be text unless you're downloading a file. Okay, and we're expecting to see a JSON formatted string there. And that's pretty much all we need, except we need to call our coroutine. So let's go back up to the top, round about line 14. And let's start our coroutine. Wonderful. As soon as that saves, we should be all set. Let's do a quick build to make sure I didn't screw anything up. At least anything obvious. It says it succeeded, so let's switch back over to Unity. And I had an error down there and it's gone now. So this should be all set now. I should be able to run this. And I should be able to type something in that I put in there before, which I believe was bvanhorn@dccccd.edu. And my password, if it doesn't accept tabs, we'd probably want to fix that in production. My password was very cleverly password. And I should be able to click this. And if everything goes well, which it didn't, I should get the result, and it says that it can't find that page. So clearly I did something incorrect. Let me go look at my URL again. So we did this earlier. Oh, I probably forgot to put login in there, didn't I? Yeah, that's what it should be. I forgot to put the word login in there. So let's add that in. Okay, so it should be /login and then another /. And that should fix the problem. I've talked a little bit, I've mentioned a few times, HTTP error codes. This is one that everyone is familiar with. 404 means the file was not found. So that's what an HTTP error code is. There are different ones for different things. Let's try this one more time. I think I put too many C's in there. Dallas County Community College. There we go. P at sword. Right. And there it is. So there's our registration result. This is exactly what we're expecting. And this is pretty cool, right? Now we've got text coming back from a web server. So envision the possibilities here. Yes, this is a very simple little system that's taking registrations, which is probably a little bit defunct in a world where we don't do that very often anymore, right? We don't really do registration codes as much as we used to. I'm not going to say they never happen. They happen on bigger games, but on smaller games, we pretty much just rely on the DRM that's inherent in whatever app store we're selling it out of. But certainly, if you want to distribute your own games, you could with something along these lines where we generate an unlock code or a registration code that uniquely identifies an installation. So that's pretty cool, but what else could you do with it? Well, anything that might involve text or assets coming off of the server. And the great thing about that is, naturally, you can change these on the server side. So if you have images or anything like that that you would like to send down the wire, you can use techniques like this one in order to get things that are either custom generated or that might be updated from time to time. So that is a quick and easy introduction into the login portion of this. In the next video, we'll talk about the registration part where we actually do a post.